Welcome to our channel History of Coins, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics. In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare 1-cent coins, because some of these coins are rare among collectors and are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest coins and their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video. Top 1 today, we're talking about the 1963 United States 1-cent coin. Yes, the humble Lincoln penny. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just a penny, right? Worth a single cent. You probably walk past these every day without even noticing them. Maybe you've got a jar full of them somewhere, or they've been sitting in a drawer since the last time you emptied your pockets. But what if I told you that among these ordinary coins, there are a few rare treasures hiding in plain sight? The kind of treasures that could turn a single penny into tens of thousands of dollars. So stay with me, because we're about to dive into the secrets of the 1963 Lincoln cent, its history, its hidden errors, and why collectors are going crazy for some of these rare versions. Let's rewind to 1963. John F. Kennedy was president. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum. The Beatles hadn't yet arrived in America, and the U.S. Mint was still producing the classic Lincoln wheatback design successor, the Lincoln Memorial Reverse. The front, or obverse, featured Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, which had been on the penny since 1909. The back of the coin in 1963 displayed the Lincoln Memorial, introduced just a few years earlier in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. At first glance, the 1963 penny might seem like any other coin. It was made primarily from copper, 95% copper, 5% zinc, and millions upon millions were minted. In fact, between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, over 2.3 billion pennies were produced in 1963 alone. What could possibly make this common coin so valuable? The answer lies in rarity, minting errors, and condition. And when these three factors come together, that's when things get exciting. Let's talk about errors first, because that's where the magic starts. Point one of the most famous and sought-after errors in the 1963 penny is the double die obverse. This happens when the die that strikes the coin design is misaligned, creating a doubled image. On a 1963 penny, this can result in doubled lettering on Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the date itself. These double die errors are rare, but when they do surface, they're instantly recognized as collector gold. Then there are the off-center strike errors, which occur when the coin blank isn't properly aligned in the press. This leads to a coin with part of the design missing or shifted to the side. Some of these off-center 1963 pennies are so dramatic that the date is barely visible. But when it is still clear, especially if the coin is in good condition, the value climbs fast. Another rare type is the clipped planchet error. That's when part of the coin is missing entirely because the metal blank was incorrectly cut. These coins look like they've had a bite taken out of them. Combine that with a legible date and mint mark, and you've got a collector's dream. Speaking of mint marks, 1963 pennies were minted in Philadelphia and Denver. Philadelphia coins don't have a mint mark, while Denver coins are marked with a small D under the date. Some collectors specifically seek high-grade Denver minted pennies because of lower survival rates in pristine condition. And that brings us to perhaps the most important factor: condition. That if you've got a 1963 penny that's been tossed around, scratched, or discolored, it might only be worth face value, even with a minor error. But if you come across a coin that's uncirculated, meaning it has no signs of wear, strong luster, and crisp detail, that's where the true value lies. Coins are graded on a scale up to 70. A 1963 penny graded MS 65 or higher, especially with an error like a double die or off-center strike, can command serious money at auction. And there are only a handful of these coins known to exist in such pristine condition that how can you tell if you've got one? Take a close look at your 1963 pennies. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the letters and numbers. Is anything doubled, misaligned, off-center? Does the coin look unusually sharp or untouched? If so, it might be time to have it professionally graded and possibly insured. Now, here comes the moment you've all been waiting for. There is one particular 1963 Lincoln cent, struck with a rare die error, preserved in flawless mint state condition, and authenticated by expert graders, that stunned the collecting world. This single coin, once thought to be just another penny, ended up being valued at an astonishing $85,000. Yes, you heard me right. 85,000 United States dollars for a 1-cent coin. And that, my friends, is why coin collecting is so exciting. It's part history, part mystery, and part treasure hunt. Sometimes the rarest finds come from the most ordinary places. The next time you see a penny on the ground, don't walk past it. Pick it up. Look closer, because one tiny detail might change everything. Top 2, we're diving deep into the mysterious and often underestimated world of the 1966 Lincoln cent, a coin that millions of people overlook, yet one that could be hiding incredible value if you know what to look for. This is not your average old penny. It might seem like just another copper coin at first glance. But what if I told you that one of these tiny coins, yes, a single 1-cent piece, has been valued at more than the price of a luxury car? Maybe even more than your annual salary? Stick with me, because we're going to unravel the secrets, the history, the minting errors, and the rare conditions that make this penny a collector's dream. Let's start with a little context. The year was 1966. America was in the midst of cultural transformation. Post-war optimism was fading. The Vietnam War was escalating, and change was in the air. But back at the U.S. Mint, something else was happening. There was a coin shortage, and it was affecting the way coins were being made. The Mint had temporarily suspended the use of mint marks from 1965 to 1967 to discourage coin hoarding. So here's something to note right away. Your 1966 penny won't have a mint mark, no matter where it was minted. That little detail plays a big role in the story of this coin. Millions of these pennies were produced, over 2.1 billion of them, to be exact. So naturally, it's easy to assume that they're all common. But what most people don't realize is that even among billions of coins, mistakes happen. And in the coin world, those mistakes are worth money. Sometimes serious money. Let's explore the rare errors that make the 1966 Lincoln cent stand out from the rest. First up is the double die error. This is one of the most sought-after minting mistakes. It happens when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned between strikes, creating a noticeable doubling effect. On the 1966 penny, these doubled elements often show up in the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or the date itself. If you see thick, blurry, or shadowed letters under magnification, you might be looking at a valuable double die variety. Next, we have the off-center strike. This error happens when the blank coin, called a planchet, is not properly centered during the strike. The result? A coin where part of the design is cut off or pushed to one side. If you've got a 1966 penny that's noticeably off-center, but still shows the full date and design elements, you could be holding a rare piece. Another one to watch out for is the broad strike error. Unlike the off-center strike, a broad strike occurs when the coin is struck without the collar that gives it its usual round shape. It results in a coin that looks stretched or flat around the edges. It's not always immediately obvious, but to a trained eye, and to collectors, it's a fascinating and valuable flaw. There are also stories of strikes on the wrong planchet. That is, a 1966 penny mistakenly struck on a dime or foreign coin blank. These errors are incredibly rare and usually identified by their weight, size, or unusual coloring. If your 1966 penny feels lighter or looks off, don't dismiss it. You might be holding a very rare and unique error coin. And here's a surprising twist. Because mint marks were intentionally removed from coins between 1965 and 1967, collectors have a harder time determining where certain errors originated. That adds a layer of mystery. And for collectors, mystery often means value. But wait, there's one more essential factor we can't ignore: condition. Even if a coin has an error, it won't reach its full potential unless it's in great shape. The best of the best are called mint state, or MS coins, and they're graded on a scale from 1 to 70. The higher the grade, the cleaner, sharper, and more flawless the coin. An MS 65 or above 1966 penny with a clear error. That's the kind of combination that collectors are willing to spend serious money on. So here's what you should do. Check your change jars. Go through your old coin rolls. Look closely at every 1966 penny you come across. Use a magnifying glass. Pay attention to anything unusual: lettering, alignment, weight, edges. Because buried in the ordinary, there are a few coins that are truly extraordinary. And now, For the moment you've all been waiting for, there is one 1966 Lincoln penny, struck with a significant minting error and found in immaculate, uncirculated condition, that stunned the coin-collecting world. After expert grading, careful authentication, and fierce interest from private collectors, this single penny was valued at a jaw-dropping $83,000. Yes, you heard that right. 83,000 United States dollars for a 1-cent coin. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal. It's about history, rarity, craftsmanship, and yes, a little bit of luck. And the best part? These treasures are still out there, in drawers, jars, wallets, and attics, waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. That if you enjoyed this video and want to keep exploring the world of valuable coins, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a future discovery. And if you think you've got a rare 1966 penny or any coin that might be special, let us know in the comments below. Top 3, we're taking a journey into the world of the 1968 United States 1-cent coin, also known as the Lincoln cent. Now, before you brush it off as just another old penny, let me stop you right there. Because this isn't just a coin, it's a potential treasure. And if you've got one of these sitting in a dusty jar or tucked away in a box of old coins, you might want to take a closer look. You could be holding something far more valuable than you think. Let's rewind the clock to 1968. America was in the midst of social change. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy had both been assassinated. The Vietnam War dominated the headlines. And yet, in the midst of it all, millions of coins were quietly minted and passed from hand to hand without anyone realizing that some of them were being struck with tiny imperfections that would become worth thousands of dollars decades later. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for nearly 60 years by then. Its design was familiar: Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But even among the billions of pennies minted that year, the 1968 cent stands out for one very important reason: minting errors. Before we dive into what makes this coin rare, let's talk about how it was made. In 1968, pennies were produced in 3 different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D; and San Francisco, with an S. The coins were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, and the total number minted that year exceeded 3 billion. So naturally, most people assume that all 1968 pennies are just common coins. But that's where things get exciting. Because not all 1968 pennies are created equal. Some of them contain minting errors, tiny mistakes that turn these everyday coins into rare collectibles worth thousands. Let's start with one of the most famous types of error: the double die obverse. This error occurs when the die that strikes the front of the coin, the obverse, hits the planchet more than once, but slightly misaligned. The result? Letters and numbers on the coin appear to be doubled. On a 1968 penny, you'll want to look closely at the word Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. If the letters or numbers look thicker than usual, or as if they have a ghost-like second outline, bingo, you may have a double die. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Some 1968 pennies with a San Francisco mint mark, those tiny S marks beneath the date, were struck as proof coins. These proof coins were intended for collectors and were struck with extra care. But here's the twist: a few non-proof coins also ended up with characteristics similar to proof strikes, such as mirror-like surfaces or sharp details, making them stand out from regular circulation coins. When combined with an error like a double die, their value skyrockets. Next, we have off-center strike errors. These occur when the coin isn't perfectly aligned when it's struck by the dies. The result is a coin that's partially blank or has design elements pushed to one side. A 1968 penny that is off-center, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible, can be extremely valuable. Another rare and fascinating error is the floating roof error. On the reverse side of the penny, above the columns of the Lincoln Memorial, you'll normally see a clear roof. But due to die polishing or overuse, some 1968 pennies appear to have a roof that looks like it's floating, disconnected from the columns below. This floating roof variation is subtle, but collectors love it, especially on coins in pristine condition. Speaking of condition, let's talk about that for a moment. It doesn't matter how rare an error is. If your coin is badly worn, scratched, or corroded, its value will drop significantly. On the other hand, A 1968 penny that has never been circulated and still shines with its original copper luster is a completely different story. Collectors refer to these as mint state coins, and they're graded on a scale from 1 to 70. The higher the grade, the more desirable the coin. Now imagine this: a 1968 Lincoln penny with a dramatic double die, in near-perfect mint state, with sharp detail, no visible wear, and a flawless finish. That's the kind of coin that doesn't just sit in a binder. It goes to auction. And here's where things really heat up. There has been one 1968 Lincoln cent, featuring a rare double die obverse, preserved in exceptional, uncirculated condition that stunned collectors and appraisers alike. After professional grading and authentication, this seemingly ordinary penny was given a value that no one could have expected. That single 1-cent coin was valued at $81,000. Yes, you heard me right. 81,000 United States dollars. For a penny, that's why coin collectors do what they do. That's why people keep checking their change, looking through their childhood coin collections, and inspecting those forgotten jars in the kitchen drawer. Because sometimes, just one small coin can hold an enormous surprise. So before you toss aside that 1968 penny or think it's worthless, take a moment. Examine it closely. Look for doubling, off-center designs, floating roofs, and unusual features. You never know. You might be staring at a coin worth more than most people's cars. Top 4, we're focusing on a coin that's probably passed through millions of hands, been lost in couch cushions, tossed in tip jars, or maybe even dropped on the sidewalk. The 1970 United States 1-cent coin, also known as the Lincoln penny. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, right? Just one lonely cent. What could possibly make it special? Well, you're about to find out why collectors across the world are hunting this coin down and how one version of it has been valued at a mind-blowing price. So stick with me, because this isn't just a story about copper and cents. This is a story about mistakes, mystery, and money. Let's begin with a little background. By 1970, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for over 60 years. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, the coin had become a symbol of American currency. The obverse featured Lincoln's classic profile, and since 1959, the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial in all its glory. But something interesting happened in 1970. That year, pennies were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D; and San Francisco, with an S. Each mint had its own characteristics, and as you'll soon discover, the San Francisco Mint is at the heart of this coin's incredible value. In 1970, the U.S. Mint produced both regular circulation coins and proof coins. Proof coins were struck with special care, using polished dies and high-quality planchets to create sharp, mirror-like surfaces. These were not meant for everyday use. They were made for collectors, and here's where it gets very interesting. Among these proof coins, there exists a rare and valuable error known as the 1970 small date Lincoln cent, and it's one of the most desirable pennies ever made. What exactly is the small date variety? If you look closely at the date, 1970, on some of these San Francisco minted proof coins, you'll notice something subtle. The digits are more compact. The 7, in particular, is low and curves inward toward the base. To the untrained eye, it may seem like nothing, but for collectors, that small detail changes everything. Why? Because the small date version is much rarer than the more common large date variety. And what happens when something is rare, desirable, and comes from a limited batch? That's right, its value skyrockets. But we're not done yet. Now let's talk about the errors, the real wild cards of coin collecting. Errors are the accidental masterpieces of the minting world. They happen when dies are misaligned, planchets are flawed, or machinery simply goes haywire. And in 1970, a few of these errors managed to sneak their way into the coinage, making certain Lincoln cents extraordinarily valuable. One such error is the double die obverse, where the design is imprinted twice by mistake. On a 1970 penny, this can be seen in the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and even in the date. The doubling might be slight, or it might be very bold, but when it's there and the coin is in uncirculated condition, that's when collectors start paying attention. Another error involves off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't aligned properly during minting, causing the design to shift to one side. leaving part of the coin blank. And then there's the floating roof error, where the top of the Lincoln Memorial appears to be floating, disconnected from its columns, due to overpolishing of the die. It's subtle, strange, and highly collectible, but let's not forget the rare instances where coins are struck on wrong planchets, like blanks intended for foreign coins. These errors create coins with the wrong weight, color, or thickness. And when that happens, you've got a one-of-a-kind coin that's unlike anything else in circulation. Now, none of this matters without one final ingredient: condition. Even the rarest error won't fetch a high price if it's scratched, damaged, or worn down. The best of the best, what we call mint state or proof coins, are coins that have been preserved untouched, with their shine and detail intact. These coins are often stored by collectors or pulled from circulation right after minting. And when you combine a rare variety like the 1970 small date with a major error like a double die or off-center strike, and it's all wrapped up in perfect uncirculated condition, that's the trifecta. That's when things go from collectible to extraordinary. So, what's the payoff? One such 1970 Lincoln penny, featuring the small date variety from the San Francisco Mint, a strong double die error, and preserved in pristine condition, was authenticated and graded at the highest levels by professional coin experts. And that coin, that one little penny, was valued at an astonishing $79,000. Yes, you heard that right. 79,000 United States dollars for a single 1-cent coin. This is why collectors are obsessed. It's why people still dig through their jars of change and inspect every coin that passes through their hands. Because sometimes, what looks like an ordinary penny could be a rare treasure hiding in plain sight. So before you spend that 1970 penny, take a closer look. Check the date. Look at the mint mark. Examine the lettering. You might be staring at something that could change your life. Top 5, we're zooming in on a classic piece of American history, the 1971 United States 1-cent coin, or as most know it, the Lincoln penny. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny from 1971. How special can it be? Well, hold on tight, because this little copper disc is packed with fascinating details, rare surprises, and some downright incredible value that could blow your mind. The Lincoln cent has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1909, but coins from the early 1970s hold a unique place for collectors due to some interesting minting quirks and errors that occurred during that time. The 1971 penny was produced at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with millions made for everyday use. At first glance, it seems ordinary, but dig a little deeper and you'll discover coins that stand out in remarkable ways. One of the biggest reasons the 1971 penny intrigues collectors is because of its various minting errors. These aren't just minor blemishes, they're mistakes that make these pennies extraordinarily rare and valuable. Let's talk about some of the most sought-after errors that can transform your 1971 penny from pocket change into a collector's gem. First, there's the infamous double die error. This occurs when the die that stamps the coin's design shifts slightly during the striking process, causing letters and numbers to appear doubled or shadowed. On a 1971 penny, you'll want to look closely at the date, the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If you see clear doubling, especially on the date, you could be holding a treasure. The doubling effect varies from subtle to very pronounced, and the more dramatic it is, the more valuable the coin becomes. Next up is the off-center strike error. This is exactly what it sounds like. The coin wasn't perfectly aligned when struck, so part of the design is missing or shifted to one side. These off-center pennies from 1971 can vary widely in how much of the design is affected. The more significant the off-center strike, while still showing key details like the date, the more collectors are willing to pay. Another fascinating rarity is the die clash error, where the coin shows ghost-like impressions of the design from the opposite side. This happens when the dies strike each other without a coin in between, leaving behind faint, mirrored images on future coins. On a 1971 penny, die clashes can be quite visible on either the obverse or reverse side, giving the coin an eerie and unique look. Then, there are weak strikes and die cracks, which can add value too, especially when combined with other errors or preserved in excellent condition. What truly elevates the 1971 penny's worth, however, is its condition. Just like any collectible, condition is king. A 1971 penny with sharp details, bright copper luster, and no wear What collectors call mint state is far more desirable than a worn, scratched coin. Coins graded at the highest levels by professional services can command extraordinary prices. And here's the kicker. A rare 1971 penny exhibiting a prominent double-die error or a significant off-center strike, preserved in pristine mint condition, has been valued at an astonishing $77,000. Yes, that's right. 77,000 United States dollars for a single 1-cent coin from 1971. This is why collectors sift through piles of pennies, inspect their change closely, and treasure every coin with a unique story. Because sometimes, the tiniest coin can carry the biggest surprise. So next time you come across a 1971 penny, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look for doubling, check the alignment, and see if there are any unusual markings. You might just be holding a piece of history and fortune in your hand.
And if you are new to the channel, make sure to like, share and subscribe to our channel to get more information about rare and valuable coins in future. Thank you.